In this tutorial, we're going to learn about the conditional statement. There are actually many different kinds of conditional statement. So specifically, we're going to learn about the if-else statement. An if-else statement is actually strikingly similar to how the English language operates. So let's jump into this P5 space. So the logic of this, of an if-else statement, is first I'm going to write some pseudocode here. First, you have to ask a question, right? So let's pretend I have received a letter in the mail. I've received an envelope. So there is an envelope, received an envelope, and I do not know what's inside of that envelope, right? So here I can say that if the envelope comes from grandma and then call grandma. So here we can actually try to translate what we got here into actual code. So the idea is the code will help me check. Oh, here actually I have a typo here. The code will help me check whether the envelope, the letter comes from grandma, and if it actually is, then I need to call grandma. Okay, so here I'm going to declare a variable called envelope, and under inside of my P5 setup, I am actually going to write if and followed by a set of parentheses and followed by a set of curly bracket. And inside of that parenthesis, that is where I have the program check whether the letter is from grandma. And if that test and verification process comes out to be true, then the program would execute the code that goes inside of that curly bracket. So in order to move forward, there's a couple of things we have to address. The list of symbols that you're seeing on the screen here are called the JavaScript comparison operators. And just by speaking this out loud, I am fully realizing how wordy that sounds. So the point is just to get an understanding of how each of them work without having to get stressed out about memorizing the terminology. So the first symbol, the double equal sign you see there, is indicating whether one thing is equal to the other. So for every single one of these symbols here, there needs to be item A that's being compared to item B. There's always two different items that's sitting on the left and right side of each of these symbols. So you got equal to, you got the weird exclamation sign in combination with equal sign, which means not equal to. You also got greater than and lesser than, and for those you would put numbers next to them, and you also got greater than or equal to, or lesser than or equal to. So we'll try them all out one by one. So in this case, what I want to use is something like if envelope equals to grandma, then console.log call grandma. Okay, so obviously my envelope is empty right now and I haven't assigned any particular value to it. So maybe here I can right after the canvas is being created, I can say envelope equals to grandma. So if I hit play here, ooh, something is off. What is it? Oh, so I made a silly mistake. I needed to put quotation mark around my grandma word. Okay, so if I hit play, essentially envelope has been assigned to the word grandma, and if the variable envelope is equal to grandma, then execute call grandma, right? So here what we see is a usage of a double equal sign that is evaluating whether something is equal. Okay, so the next step is using the exclamation mark and equal sign, which means not equal to, right? So let's see. So we can say that if the envelope is not equal to grandma, then do nothing, right? So now we have to go back to our variable here and change this into, someone. So the envelope is sent by a random someone, and if I hit play here, it is actually not going to equal to grandma, therefore I don't have to do anything. So that's the basic idea of how a if statement work, right? So here to add on top of what we have, there is also something called else. So here, let's say I'm gonna return this to grandma, and I'm gonna return that to a double equal sign. So if the letter is from grandma, then call grandma. Hit play again just to make sure it still works. Okay, and another way to write this program is I can say else, right? So if letters from grandma, call grandma. If the letter is not from grandma, which is what the else means, then do nothing. Okay, so now the envelope is assigned to the variable grandma, and if I change this to someone else, then it would essentially check that whether this step is true, and indeed it is not true. The envelope is not from grandma, therefore it jumped towards the other option, which is everything else. Do nothing. Okay, so let's move forward and keep looking at our other options here. So you also got the greater than and the less than. And these might work similar to what you would expect. So let's say now I have a different scenario. I have a basket, and I am not sure how many eggs I have in the basket. So here I'm going to change my variable name here, and I'm going to say that secretly, unbeknownst to me, there are 1 egg inside the basket. So in the program here, I'm going to delete this, and I can change the way I write this program. I'm going to also delete my pseudocode here, and I'm going to write a new set. So I got a basket, and if basket has or contains less than 3 eggs, then add more eggs. Okay, so let's try this. So I'm going to write an if statement. It's going to say if basket is smaller than 4, or actually smaller than okay, so I'm gonna write this out loud. So if basket is going to be smaller than 3, then console.log add eggs. So I'm going to hit play here, and indeed, because we only had 1 egg inside of our basket, therefore, when it goes through the conditional statement here, it went through the test, and it is true that the basket has less than 3 eggs. Therefore, I got the message that I needed to add more eggs. So this process of testing whether something is true or false inside of this parenthesis here is something called a Boolean expression. Okay, so I'm going to actually change this program a little bit, and I'm going to actually move this into draw. Okay, I'm going to delete my pseudocode here. So what I got is I have an empty basket. It got assigned to 1 egg in setup, and inside of draw, it's asking if the basket has lesser than 3 eggs, then add more eggs. This time, I'm actually going to do it in a different way. I'm going to say basket equals basket plus 1. So what this does essentially is using that if statement to increment the amount of eggs inside of the basket, right? So I'm going to print console.log here, and I'm going to print basket, and I'm gonna hit play. And it's interesting, we got 2 numbers in the console. One is 2 and one is 3. Essentially what happened, if I can talk about it step by step, is that the moment we get to the draw function into that conditional if statement, the program is checking whether the basket has less than 3 as a number value. And indeed, it does the first time it goes around. The first time it goes around, the number is 1. So 1 is lesser than 3. So basket get added 1 value, so it becomes 2, which is what we're seeing here. And actually, because we put this if statement inside the draw function, it loops and executed the if statement again, right? So the second time around, the basket has 2 eggs, but it's still smaller than 3. So the basket got added 1 more egg again, the second round. And therefore, it's printing number 3 in the console. So of course, if we add this number here, it's just going to keep looping and repeating the if statement until it fulfills the boundary, right? So here I can even make this program more complete by saying else you got enough eggs. So when I put in that else portion, you see that, oh, actually every frame this if statement is being executed. And the reason, I'm going to stop this, the reason why in the beginning we only saw a few numbers and those numbers don't repeat themselves is because after we got 5 eggs, after basket become number 5, this portion of the code doesn't get executed anymore because this Boolean expression has been verified or proven not to be true anymore. So let's go to our next portion and look at greater than or equal to. So this is essentially just a way for us to be able to choose both greater than and equal to. So for instance, I'm going to delete or actually comment out that console dialog down there so we can see properly. I'm gonna hit play, and indeed we ended up with 5 eggs in this basket. Okay, now I'm going to try to add an equal sign next to my lesser than sign. So it's gonna be lesser than and equal to. And I'm gonna hit play, and now I get 1 extra egg because when the program is checking whether this Boolean expression is true, at the very last step, when basket got 5 egg, it's still equal to 5, right? So then 1 more egg gets added on top of number 5. So this is the basic way to approach and think about the if-else statement. You can also write something called the else if. So for instance, I'm going to delete the code here, and I'm going to restart. So here I have an envelope, and we don't know who the envelope is from yet. I'll decide that in a second, but I'm going to draw here, and I'm going to say if the envelope is coming from grandma, then call grandma. And else if the envelope is from utility company, then pay the bill. So here you can see that we are essentially gluing 2 if statement into one, right? Because this is essentially the same sequence of action, all relating to reading the envelope, and the envelope can really only have one sender in this case, right? So here we are going to say envelope equals to grandma. And if I hit play here, the program is going to, ooh, something is off. Oh, I'm missing an E here. So it's going to evaluate the Boolean expression here and execute call grandma. And else if it's utility company, then it's going to be pay the bill. Okay, so that's the basic idea for if, else, and else if.